Why does your dog sometimes just sit there and stare at you in complete silence, like it's waiting for something you haven't noticed yet? Most owners brush that off as a random habit, or assume it always means food, but that's usually where the misunderstanding starts. Because that look may be doing more than asking. It may be checking, waiting, reading, even trying to pull a response out of you without making a sound. And the last reason this happens is the one many owners get wrong completely. 1. Most owners think a silent stare is simple. The dog wants food, wants a treat, wants something from the kitchen. End of story. But here's what's actually happening a lot of the time. That look is not always about the thing itself. It can be about you, your attention, your eyes, your response, your next move. In one study, when owners looked directly at their dogs, the dogs shifted into more attention-getting behavior. They looked at the owner's face more, moved closer, pawed more, and even whimpered more. That matters, because it tells you the stare is often part of a social exchange, not just a silent demand for food. So when your dog stands near the bowl, or sits in the hallway, or watches you from across the room without making a sound, don't reduce that too quickly to hunger. Sometimes they are not just asking for an object, they are checking whether the channel is open. That's not meaningless silence, that's communication starting. And here's the part a lot of owners miss. Sometimes your dog is not waiting for the food itself, or the leash itself, or the door itself. They're waiting for you to do something, to look back, to speak, to stand up, to confirm that the next thing is really happening. You see this all the time in ordinary moments around the house, before a walk, before dinner, when they want to go outside, when they're not sure if you noticed them yet. They look, then pause, then keep looking, not because the object matters more, but because your attention does. In that study, dogs changed their attention-getting behavior depending on whether their owners were looking directly at them. More face-looking, more moving closer, more pawing, more vocalizing. That is not random. It means your dog is not only focused on what they want, they are also reading whether your attention is available, open, and usable. So the silent stare is often less about the item in question and more about the response that has to come through you first. Here's where this gets more interesting. That stare is not always your dog pushing a message outward. Sometimes they are also pulling information in, not just sending a signal, but checking one. Your face, your posture, your readiness, your attention. That is part of what makes the behavior easy to misread, because from the outside, it looks still, simple, passive. But it may be doing two jobs at once. In research comparing gaze behavior in cats and dogs, both species showed some overlapping patterns, but dogs also showed clear differences in how they interacted with their owners, and the setting mattered too. Familiar situations and unfamiliar ones did not produce the exact same kind of gaze. That matters, because it means the stare is not one flat behavior with one fixed meaning. It changes with the social context around it. So when your dog goes quiet and just watches you, and they may not only be trying to influence you, they may also be reading the room through you first. Here's one that changes the tone of this completely. Not every silent stare is your dog trying to get something out of you in the immediate sense. Sometimes the value of the moment is the connection itself. In research on dog gaze and owners, a dog's gaze was linked with increased urinary oxytocin in the owner during social interaction, which is why this behavior is often discussed in the context of bonding and attachment. And in work on owners' direct gaze, that look was also considered as more than a demand signal. It can function inside a social relationship. That matters, because it shifts the meaning of the stare from simple request to shared contact. So when your dog settles, looks at you, and holds that look without noise, or even don't flatten it into begging every time. Not always food, not always access. Sometimes what they are reaching for is not the thing in your hand. It is you, right there. And this is the part that matters most, because this is where people start getting the whole thing wrong. The mistake is not noticing the stare. The mistake is forcing one meaning onto every stare your dog gives you. Always food, always sadness, always affection, always some hidden instinct you think you've decoded. But that is exactly where sloppy interpretation begins. In research on gaze behavior, the setting itself changed what that gaze looked like. Familiar situations were not the same as unfamiliar ones, and even the difference between community observation and lab observation mattered. In other words, when the focus was on attention, and attention getting behavior under specific gaze conditions, not on one permanent explanation for every silent look a dog gives. That matters, because the stare is not a single message stamped onto every moment. It shifts with context, with attention, with the social situation around it. So if you want to read your dog well, stop asking what the stare always means. Start asking what is happening around it. That is the difference between insight and projection. So when you put all of this together, the silent stare stops looking like one strange habit and starts looking like something far more precise. Sometimes it is attention-seeking. Sometimes it is social communication. Sometimes it sits closer to bonding. And sometimes the meaning shifts because the context shifts with it. That is the real takeaway. Not every stare means the same thing, but very few of them are meaningless. Your dog is not interesting here because the behavior feels mysterious. Your dog is interesting because the behavior is often subtle, social, and easy to misread if you flatten it too quickly. So the next time that quiet look lands on you across the room, don't rush to decode it with one answer. Pay attention to the moment around it first. If this is the kind of thing you like exploring, the small signals, the quiet behaviors, the moments most people pass right by, then stay close to Mr. Hidden Mind. Because that is really what this channel is about. Not louder opinions, sharper attention, looking again at what seems ordinary until it stops being ordinary. And if there is one thing worth taking from this video, it is that silence is not emptiness, not in a room with a dog watching you, and not in life more broadly. So if you enjoy videos that decode what hides in plain sight, follow Mr. Hidden Mind. Sometimes the quietest things in front of us are the ones saying the most to you.